You are listening to Fantha Tracks.
It's time to head south with the Fantha From Down Under. Here are your hosts, Adam O'Brien and Paul Naylor.
Welcome to the Fantha From Down Under. Our main chat today is going to be about the upcoming Star Wars things and some of the cancelled ones. And what we're going to do is a bit of a game here tonight where we're going to rattle off the names and I'll get Paul's reaction. Yay or nay? And if it's a nay, I want to know why. First one is Star Wars Visions Season 3, coming out October 29 this year.
That's a yay nay. That's the reason that's a yay nay is based on previous seasons of Visions. There's some great stuff in there, but there's some real utter dross as well, in my opinion. I mean, the first season of Visions, that first episode, which was very sort of black and white with like little hints of colour here and there for lights and lightsabers and stuff, that was a brilliant episode. And then the second one, which was the one where there was like a rock band, a very stylized version of Boba Fett and Gamorrean guards and various other characters. That was a fun episode as well. But then it started getting a little bit... But yeah, so that's a yay nay.
Next one up is The Mandalorian in Grogu, which is coming out May 2026.
Optimistically, yay. Realistically, after I've seen it, potentially an A. It depends what they do with it. I don't know whether they're going to wrap things up big time with that. Potentially, that will be the end of the Mandoverse. The one thing that I do feel quite sad about is how the treatment of Tem, how potentially we're not going to see him as Boba Fett in that film. I mean, it could be that that's just like some sort of diversion, so that when he does turn up, it's great. Potentially, we're not going to get Tem back as Boba Fett. As an aside, the Boba Fett TV series, a lot of people hate it. I was always a fan of Boba Fett, but certainly not Matt Booker level Boba Fett. You know, I mean, he even collected Jeremy and took him somewhere. But no, he was and still is a massive fan of your OG version of Fett. And he hates what they did with the character. I could see what they were doing. They went a long way about it in sort of showing how he recovered from the Sarlacc, kept going backwards and forwards to the Tuscans, etc. And it's only really at the end of the season where he's having a conversation with Fennec Shan and says, this isn't what I want to be doing. I want to get back to what I was. That should have been about halfway through the season, and then we could have seen Boba Fett as he was. And then I think his journey would have carried on. The next on your list is Maul, Shadow Lord. Again, hopefully that'll be a yay. There is a danger with some of these minor characters, the Boba Fetts of this world. I mean, his legacy has potentially been tarnished and suffered by having this series of him. So when you go back, again, going back to what I've said previously, if you watch The Empire Strikes Back now, you've got in the back of your mind what he's going to become. And it'll be the same with Maul. The fact that he became such an iconic character, even after the trailer aired in 98 and you saw Maul for the first time, you thought, wow, this is going to be good. And he's in the Phantom Menace fleetingly. I think a total of about 12 minutes or something ridiculous. He's not in there much anyway. And there's just those few lines of dialogue, and that's all we had. If that's all we'd ever had of Maul, he would probably be as popular, if not more popular.
I think more popular. Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah.
What they've done with Boba Fett, in the opinion, they should have done something else. Always the opinion, he should have died, but the armor gets thrown out of the Sarlacc because it's like bones. Like, why would the Sarlacc want to eat shell, basically? That
was interesting what they did with Cobb Vanth then, wasn't it? That was almost a hint at what they could have done with that character.
It's like the Phantom. People take on the armor. It's not about who the person is. It's about the armor. It should be somehow the armor is the mystery. The man in there is still a mystery, but if somebody else took it on, you still think it's the same person. And to me, it's like the Phantom. You know, the Phantom, the Ghost of Walks, this character that everyone thinks is immortal. It makes the mystery of Boba Fett even more so. The more we know about him, the less powerful he is in our minds.
I suppose the best analogy would be that if you support a football team, it doesn't matter who the players are within that team, you're always going to support that team. And it would almost be the same kind of idea if you'd always support the armour. If all you ever knew was the armour, no taking off of the helmet or none of that nonsense, if that's all you ever knew, it wouldn't really matter who the person was that was in that armour.
Oh, exactly. And I mean, who else can then just grab a sausage and barbecue it at the same time with his flamethrower? I mean,
yeah, but then he's going to take the helmet off and eat it. And that's.
so I'd say that's a plus. The next one is Star Wars Starfighter coming out in 2027. We don't know much about this. This is some of the people involved. Matt Smith.
Now he's an interesting choice because I'm sure you're aware that, and there were scenes extensively filmed of Matt Smith as a clone of the Emperor. So yeah, he was going to be the big bad in episode 9, but then inexplicably they brought back Ian McDiarmid, which kind of ruined the Emperor. It needs to be something good for the 50th anniversary. I'm hoping it's a yay, and this could effectively be the second reboot of Star Wars.
Hello there, you beautiful people. This is Steve Evans, Senior Design Director for Star Wars at Hasbro, and you are listening to, you guessed it, Fantha Tracks.
Star Wars Ahsoka Season 2, which, look, for the most part, I think the only bad thing I thought about Ahsoka was that it had all the right elements, it just wasn't paced right.
I think you're right. I think it was a bit pedestrian in places. Yeah, it got some nice ideas in there. I mean, it finally threw in some potential to bring Anakin back into it. The one good thing that it has done, and also the Obi-Wan Kenobi series, is that it made Hayden popular again. So to see him get his second bite of the cherry, but also to, if anything, to become more popular than he was even back in the day. That's nice to see that. So yeah, I've got high hopes for Ahsoka Season 2. I quite enjoyed the first season. Tennant as the droid was really good. Yeah, I'm going to give that one a yay.
And then we've got Taika Waititi, who...
He's a fun guy, so let's see what happens with that.
Look, I love Taika.
Yeah.
And I love Ragnarok. To me, Marvel died after Ragnarok because I do not like some of the directions they've gone. And to me, I always loved Marvel when it was singular character, but still together as a bigger whole. I used to collect the Ultimates, which was basically what Marvel Studios took that whole story and just put it on. Like I liked that 20 years before or whatever it was. Great series. It was all there. For me, when I started seeing like the Avengers movies, that's what things changed. Like Joss Whedon's one was hero. The second one, never seen it. But when I watched, Infinity,
it'll again. This comes down to the problem with canon. Once you start going down that route, one film impacts massively on the next. I mean, when I collect Marvel comics back in the day, and I don't know whether it was the same in the Australian version of the comic, but in the back of them, you've got the Guardians of the Galaxy as a comic strip, and I never read it. It was just at the back of the comic. I never read it. So I got no connection to Guardians of the Galaxy at all. I still think that first Guardians of the Galaxy film was one of the best things from Marvel in years. It was a great film. So it just goes to show sometimes leave the iconic stuff alone and try and tread a path that people aren't that familiar with.
Yeah, it's like this new Alien Earth, which I watched the first two of, and I've just reviewed on my channel. Look, the look of it looks fantastic.
I've seen the first 10 minutes of the first episode, and I love the fact that it looks very much the same aesthetic as the first film.
The world that they've created, I actually think is fantastic. Like, it really answers a lot of the stuff of the 1979 film, and it's very much a love letter to that.
It is.
But it's literally like he's taken Prometheus, an alien covenant, thrown in the toilet, pulled out his bucket, and urinated all over it. Because he's literally, have a bit of that. Why? Because he can't stand Prometheus. That's the whole premise of this whole series, is that you have a navigator, this guy on this huge carrier filled with basically biological weapons to wipe out a planet. And you just go, that was just a statue. If Ridley, the guy that actually had a hand in creating this whole thing, and then he's the one that brought the androids and all that stuff into it, it makes sense, that he's got something. So for me, it shows you that sometimes they don't take it seriously enough to look at what somebody's done. And I think that's some of these new projects that we're going to sort of look at. Taika's one of those, because he's now got Judge Dredd. And it's not going to be the Judge Dredd. It's going to be like Jojo Rabbit with Dredd. And I've got to say, Carl Urban's Dredd is one of the best comic adaptations I've seen in about the last 30 years.
That was worthy of sort of like a series of films from there on in.
Oh, 100%. The fact that it just was not supported enough, not put out enough, horrible, like it's a good damn film.
See, again, this is a problem with modern day cinema. Back when we were growing up, a film was given time for word of mouth to get around, for popularity to sort of like go, I'll go and see that then. These days, it's on for like a couple of weeks, maybe 3 or 4 weeks, and then you're streaming within sort of 3 or 4 weeks after that. So people are going to think, well, do I really want to go and spend all that money to go and sit there, or should I just wait 8 weeks? Oh, I'll wait 8 weeks and be fine. Every now and then you'll get something where it gets elevated to that next level. I mean, I got dragged along to that god-awful Barbie movie by my daughter. Oh, my life. Yeah, but every now and then you'll get that cultural sort of moment where they'll go, right, and people get on board with it. But it doesn't happen like it used to. I do miss the 70s and the 80s when a film came out and you knew it'd be on the cinema for 3 months. So you'd have plenty of opportunity to go and see it. You'd get to speak to people in person.
Look at the cancelled ones so far. So Rangers, the New Republic TV series, cancelled. Well, I mean, who knows now that the door's kind of been opened. Like, it could change now that we've got a certain someone. That's possibly an opening. We've got an untitled J.D. Dillard and Matt Owens movie, whoever the hell they are. But give Joe Bloggs from, where's he from? Oh, he's from Wales. Yeah, you give him that.
He'll do.
Where's this guy? Scotty McDonald. Where's he from? Oh, Aberdeen. Around from the corner of the pub. All right, he'll do a pub movie in Star Wars. There we go.
Now the biggest yay on this list, and this is like 1,000 people stood behind me going yay, punching the air, cracking open a can of beer. Rian Johnson's Star Wars trilogy, presumed cancelled.
It's not happening. I liked his Looper. I think Looper was a damn good little film with Bruce Willis and
Joseph Gordon.
Yeah, Gordon-Levitt. Yeah.
I can only ever see him in Third Rock from the Sun.
Kevin Feige's movie is now cancelled. David Benioff, the Game of Thrones guys. I mean, after that last season, of course, they're not going to want anyone to do it. Status Unknown, Book of Boba Fett Season 2, Mandalorian Season 4. I suppose that's all going to be involved in that movie. The other one is Rogue Squadron. There's a movie that should be made. That should be that one.
That one was sort of dead in the water, but potentially he's back, isn't it? It's back on the slate.
Yeah.
For everything in one location, daily news, reviews, interviews, podcasts, video and social media feeds. Bookmark FanthaTracks.com for Star Wars news 24/7, 365.
The biggest problem that they've got in all this is when you go to things like Star Wars Celebration or New York Comic Con, where they suddenly announce, we're now going to be doing this, and this, and it doesn't happen. And it's happened so many times with Star Wars now.
Kathleen Kennedy, I'll make a plea to you now. If you want to get some of these movies happening, hire some of the people that have actually put their hand up and give them the creative freedom. Do not get in their way. Let them do what they need to do. Yeah. First one, Nolan said he would love to do a Star Wars movie, but he has to have director's cut and all creative freedom. Just let him do it. The other one, David Fincher, has said he would love to do a Star Wars film. Let him. Do not get in his way. Do not do an Alien 3. Denis Villeneuve even said he would do one if had full freedom to do things. He wouldn't do it like it was done now, but he would do, an epic Star Wars film. He has to have a final cut. Let him do what he needs to do. These are three creators who would work with Star Wars. Yeah. But, unfortunately, the way things are currently, it's not happening. And we're going to continue down this road. We need creative freedom for these guys. And some of that is not letting the canon come in as much. Canon is a wonderful thing, but you have to have a little bit more creative freedom in this sandbox.
For me, the best Marvel film of all time, Logan, because that was allowed to be its own thing.
I think the one movie that on this list that is without a doubt going to have full creative freedom because you just don't know what's going to be happening in this. And, I mean, he's already worked with the guys with, obviously, Indy 5. James McDonald, fantastic director. 310 to Yuma, one of the best Westerns ever with, Batman versus Gladiator. Look, it's literally – but it's a beautiful film. It's really well done. Some great people in it.
It's like you say, you've got to give these people creative freedom. You've also got to take some chances. And they kind of hinted at it, I suppose, in Ahsoka Season 1, where you got the stormtroopers that potentially are zombie troopers. Go down the horror route. Let's have a horror Star Wars film.
What was that book that came out? Was it Red Harvest? It was before the changeover. On the cover, it's got a blood-covered stormtrooper mask. Actually brings us, folks, to our next and final installment of the podcast tonight. That is, of course, a look down into the Fantha Down Under Cafe, where we do look at an older book. This is one of the first ones I picked up, folks. The second book after The Truths at Bakura, which is the one, the first one. I think my mum got it. She goes, "Oh, look, Star Wars is back, son. Hopefully it's not as loud in the book, eh?"
Don't read that out loud.
Tales from the Mos Eisley Cantina, which is an anthology of short stories set in the fictional universe, edited by my dear friend Kevin J. Anderson, of course, author of the Dune universe as well. That's right. All the way from Port Muad'Dib. It's all set in the shady bar filled with aliens that was first shot in, of course, the 1977 film Star Wars. And in 1996, Dark Horse Comics released a similarly titled one, which was a one-shot comic called Tales as well from Mos Eisley Cantina. Now, this was a great little paperback when it came out too.
I remember this coming out back in the day, and then I think there was also Tales of the Bounty Hunters as well, which followed a similar sort of idea of these short stories. Great thing about it, they are short stories, so if you haven't got much of an attention span, you've got these nice little vignettes, if you like. It's such a clever idea because it doesn't really stomp on anything that could be deemed canon. It's just a little story. It's great. It's a book that I never actually bought, but you've made me want to go onto Amazon and seek this one out.
I had the audio book of this years ago, like on a cassette.
But what it did is it looked at some of the characters that only real big Star Wars fans would know about. So, like some of the character names that are thrown in here, like Mom and Adon, which is obviously Hammerhead, and Muftak and Cabe. Many people would know what Greedo was, even if they weren't massive fans. But it really did have a good look at these real minor sort of background characters that we might have seen for just a couple of seconds on screen. But that's the tantalizing thing, isn't it? As a kid, you watch Star Wars and you're in the cantina. Say, was it Boshek, the guy that's sort of like in the black pilot suit that's talking to Chewbacca and Obi-Wan Kenobi? You think, well, what's his story? In here, you've got it. I love the idea of it. Was it ever made into like a comic strip adaptation?
Yeah, they did it in Dark Horse. It was like maybe one of the second or third ones they did because they were basically, was it Dark Empire was the big one they did first.
Yes.
And it was Tom V. And Tom did those, and Cam Kennedy. The way that they did it, the shade was done with one color. It was like a green, red, whatever it was.
Yeah.
It was to get the reflections of the laser light and stuff like that we see in displays and Star Wars. And it was so visceral. Yeah. Obviously, Luke falling to the new Emperor, like the uploaded Emperor.
You've got this book in your collection, have you? Still?
I do. It's literally sitting on top of my cupboard right now. I can actually see it. There's one lot of Star Wars books that I actually kept on my last move. A lot of the paperbacks post Disney. I know what was sitting there. I've got some of the hardcovers still, but I've kept every single one of the expanded universe novels. Yeah. I've got to say, folks, that era was more adventurous with its writing. Again, probably because their hands weren't tied. And it's nothing on the new writers. The new writers are doing exactly what they've been shown the parameters of to do because obviously they've got to fit within canon. That's part of the assignment, So we get that. And as a writer myself, I couldn't do that to myself. To me, you come up with your own rules, your own world, and you work within them. I guess tie-in work is different, and that's part of what they do.
That's the thing, isn't it? When you're working within a galaxy, you could have a canon that's happening on a planet that is so far away from anything else that it doesn't really matter what goes on that planet. All you need to drop into is some familiar footnotes, have some moisture evaporators, have a few stormtroopers here and there. This is another thing with the sequel trilogy, and again, I'm sure it was down to the fact that they just wanted to make more money at the House of Mouse, is that they don't include many of the OG aliens. You don't get your Rhodians, you don't get your Snaggletooths, your Walrus Men or anything like that. You get it in Rogue One, a little bit here and there, but you don't get it to the extent that you should get it. That's the connection. As a fan, I would much rather see something that is connected to the original stuff without it being the main characters from the original stuff. Go and play with some new characters as the main ones, but have background characters that are familiar and take you back to Star Wars.
The only time I've actually disagreed with, because I like J.J. Abrams personally, I think he's probably better of the storytellers out of that timeline. As he puts it, he rock and rolled Star Trek, and you take it from classical music and you put a bit of rock and roll in it. The second film we won't talk about, but the third one, Beyond, was exactly that too. And I know it's Mark's favourite too. Like that, it's literally like a real episode of the OS. When you look at it, even with The Force Awakens, he's got a great structure. But what he sucks at is constructing aliens. Like that whole thing on that ice planet, and it's just a big eyeball. It's got tentacles. I hate to have been the designer sitting there. Yeah, okay. It'd be like Jack Darrow in The Matrix. Wachowski's telling them it's got so many lines, it's got so much this on that mech warrior robots, and his pencil under this thing. I don't know, maybe Darrow he lost his hair in that movie. I can tell you that.
But yeah, I mean, that's what I like about these little novels, where it's just the short stories. It's punchy. It fills out a bit of background on some of these characters. The Tales of the Bounty Hunters did the same. Have you got a particular favourite story out of this book?
For me, it goes back to, particularly this, and it's The Hunter's Fate, Greedo's Tale. And again, it's about Greedo, a character that's fairly small, insignificant character, and he didn't shoot first, folks. That's just. Well, obviously, we've got a bit of the background. And I think that's what I like about these stories. And sometimes these novels, or even these smaller stories here, are better than what they were doing with the bigger story, because you get to play with one of these little characters, which we knew them as the figures. And then you're like, oh, it's actually got a story now. And that's what Star Wars did well. To get your name into Star Wars, or even like Kevin Reitzel has his name now in Star Wars thanks to the card game, because they used to actually write out the names and stuff like that. He was part of that, so name inside Star Wars that way through the characters. And then, obviously you've got even some of our friends in Europe actually were the ones that started naming these characters. It's interesting that you gave it power, but we all remember that was the guy with the snaggle teeth and where it was.
Yeah.
That's what made it so fantastic.
When you were a kid, when that second wave of Star Wars figures came out, which was mostly Cantina aliens and a few droids and Luke in his X-Wing gear, when those came out, I can remember walking into town with my mum and dad, and I saw it in the local toy shop. I thought, wow, I mean, those really stood out, didn't they, because of the colours that they used for the aliens. But then you got home and you're thinking, as a kid, you're there and you're making up stories with these figures. So it's very sort of nostalgic for me when they go back and they do the stories of Greedo or of Wuher, the barman, things like that. I mean, this book is now probably getting on for 30 years old, isn't it? But after we've had this chat, mate, I'm on to Amazon. I'm getting this. Talk about late to the party. I think my trifle's gone off.
Hi, this is Kevin Cornwall, and you're listening to Fantha Tracks.
Thrawn was another one.
Well, that was what brought me back into Star Wars, was Heir to the Empire.
I can't remember it was the Heir to the Empire. I tell you what it was. It was X-Wing Rogue Squadron that really got me the first one. Big salute to Mr. Stackpole out there. We end with Alston as well, Aaron Alston.
Those should be what a future movie is based on.
That should be the new series. Like, honestly, it's Mission Impossible in space with Top Gun. Plus, there was that Jedi Ghost that was part of the series as well.
Yeah. They could launch it with a film, because obviously people will go to see that, and then have a series. That's how they'll keep people involved with both spending money at the cinema and then also supporting streaming.
They should hire Ben Stiller.
What?
Because he'd just been watching a certain movie. He said, get him to play the character Tug Speedman. He can do Speedman in Star Wars. Tug Speedman is back.
But that's made me think, though, another great series would be based on Tag and Bink. Let's get those into get those in a series. That's another thing, a Star Wars comedy. If you did it right, you could do a good, fun Star Wars comedy.
I'd be happy to see more Jack Black. I mean, in the right role in Star Wars.
In the right role, yeah.
In the right role. I'm going to give you one. Check this one. Owen Wilson's Star Wars.
Yeah.
Oh, DeForest. Yeah.
Are you just trying to bring people into Star Wars that you can vaguely do anything?
Well, I tell you what, you always had one crazy guy in Star Wars, and that was, of course, going to play Han Solo, walking. He's going to walk in his way onto the Falcon.
I can't do it, but yes, I can imagine.
And I mean, the fact that apparently Bobby De Niro was actually at the castings.
Well, Pacino was also in line to play Solo as well.
Folks, this is me, the Fantha From Down Under. This is the format for the new show. Coming from you live here at Quillis Cantina, the Gold Coast of Australia, and of course, at Fantha HQ, across the pond.
Near Stoke-on-Trent.
So from all of us here, and of course, the Fantha From Down Under, I want to first of all thank Paul. Mate, we're going to bomb out. It's amazing show.
We're going to laugh. It won't be long before we've got you over here having a Greg's sausage roll, mate, and that will make your life.
Check out the rest of the wonderful stuff at, of course, fanthatracks.com, and catch you next time here, Fantha From Down Under.
Well, that's all we have time for here tonight on the Fantha From Down Under. And we'll catch you next time, same place, same channel, and of course, with more Star Wars news in a single file from FanthaTracks.com's Australian edition. That's right. We'll catch you next time. So, until then, may the Force be with you and enjoy your Star Wars fandom. We'll see you next time. Warning, no Tauntauns were harmed in the filming and recording of this podcast.
Coming up next on Fantha Tracks Radio, it's Making Tracks.